For our group project, we decided to do the T-Mobile's merger with Sprint, and I am Amelia Fuller.
I'm Brandon Adams.
My name is Morgan Terry.
My name is Josh Wetzel.
My name's Carson Craig.
So T-Mobile is one of the fourth largest American wireless providers in the US. T-Mobile has now merged with Sprint as of 2020, but it took significantly longer than they expected. This is just a timeline to show what went down between T-Mobile and Sprint. And starting out in 2011, AT&T attempted to purchase T-Mobile, but the deal fell through due to some legal issues and resistance against the US government. And then in early 2013, T-Mobile merged with Metro PCS, which they decided to do this because it will increase competitive advantage with other wireless providers. And then later in 2013, Sprint's parent company, SoftBank, attempted to purchase T-Mobile, but they decided to abandon its plan to purchase because of regulatory insecurities. And then 5 years later, in 2018, T-Mobile announced to the public that they are merging with Sprint. A little over a year later, it was finally approved by the U.S. Justice Department. And then in February of 2020, the federal court ruled in favor of the merger. And then finally, in April of 2020, the merger was finally finalized after 2 years in the making.
All right, so diving deeper into the merger between T-Mobile and Sprint, we ran a SWOT analysis to identify a couple of key factors. Starting with the strengths, T-Mobile's Tuesday offers T-Mobile and Sprint customers specialized perks specifically on Tuesdays. This includes discounts on gas, theme park admissions, movies, foods, and travel, just to name a few. This differentiates T-Mobile from other service providers and makes T-Mobile more appealing to its customers. They've also guaranteed current rates of current customers until 2023. And additionally, upon acquiring Sprint, T-Mobile has become the largest 5G network provider in the United States. They now cover over 321 million people across 1.9 million square miles. And this is more than both AT&T and Verizon combined. Another notable advantage of this merger is that previous Sprint customers will be able to keep the same phone number, price plan, and features previously offered to them by Sprint. Moving over to some weaknesses, the public has voiced many opinions surrounding the conjoining of the third and fourth largest wireless providers. With great uncertainty behind the potential formation of a monopoly, the controversy has brought both good and bad publicity to both the companies. Due to almost 2 years delay in the approval of the merger, T-Mobile has been restricted growth in comparison to their nearest competitors, Verizon and AT&T. This has resulted in a variety of projects being put on hold. Another issue that goes against T-Mobile is the Un-carrier movement. This is one of T-Mobile's most successful campaigns, but with competitors also introducing a no-contract post-paid plan, it will be difficult for T-Mobile to use the same marketing techniques and strategies they have done in the past when their subscriber retention rate is essential for growth at this time. Finally, coming off of such a large merger cost of $26 billion, T-Mobile will have to allocate funds differently, resulting in a smaller marketing budget. Looking at the opportunities, the merger with Sprint will greatly widen T-Mobile's subscriber base, providing the ability to increase revenue overall. T-Mobile will also now have access to an additional 2.5 gigahertz spectrum that was previously owned by Sprint and will give T-Mobile the capabilities to expand its network, improve service, and deploy 5G cell sites across both urban and non-urban areas. Another opportunity would be that discovering new technologies. This enables T-Mobile to adopt differing pricing strategies in the emerging market. And T-Mobile will not only retain its loyal companies through this, or customers, but will also attract new customers as well. Of course, through merging with Sprint, T-Mobile will also be able to offer a greater variety of plans that were once thought of and pursued by Sprint. Lastly, diving deeper into the threats, now that T-Mobile has merged with Sprint, there's always a possibility of other top wireless providers combining and creating an extremely powerful competitor, as well as changing buying habits of customers. posing a threat on the current physical infrastructure model due to the amount of Sprint stores they have recently acquired. There is also a possibility of competitors lowering prices to achieve a competitive advantage. Lastly, there's always a threat that a competitor will secure exclusive rights to a groundbreaking advancement in the industry.
As far as the external analysis goes, the main factors that are affecting this merger were political and economic forces. These forces had extreme weight because this merger needed both Department of Justice and Federal Communication Commission approval. In 2013, a similar merger was abandoned because top executives at both companies felt that the merger would be struck down by the FCC and the DOJ. Especially since the 2013 merger failed, there was a large amount of speculation on what would be different this time to allow this merger to be approved. The DOJ conducted thorough investigations and eventually approved the merger with some stipulations. Sprint's earlier acquisitions of Virgin Mobile and Boost Mobile had to be sold to Dish in order to create a new competitor in the industry. The FCC also later gave its approval after a contentious 3-2 vote and its own stipulations. The FCC demanded that 5G be accessible to 97% of Americans within the first 3 years of the merger closing. Before the merger closed, 14 attorney generals filed suit against the merger, claiming that monopolistic practices could raise consumer prices in the long run. The suit was seen in a New York district court, and Judge Victor Marrero ruled in favor of the merger. He claimed that this merger would not give Sprint the sustainable long-term competitive strategy and therefore would not result in monopolistic practices. This merger also faced social forces as the general public saw this merger as the creation of a monopoly. T-Mobile was aware of this and has been since implementing campaigns to try and win public appeal. One such campaign was the price lock guarantee that promises no price hikes on new T-Mobile customers. Technological forces have also helped T-Mobile use Sprint's existing 5G network in the creation of the new massive T-Mobile and Sprint combined 5G network. This is the largest 5G network in America. That's 2.5 times bigger than AT&T and 4 times bigger than Verizon. In all, while there are multiple forces affecting this merger, the political and economic forces have proved to be the most difficult for T-Mobile and Sprint to overcome.
Next, we'll take a look at a few key aspects of the corporate strategy in T-Mobile's decision-making process to merge with Sprint. First off, it's important to recognize the pricing strategy that T-Mobile uses, the budget-friendly approach. I'm reluctant to call them a true low-cost competitor due to the fact that their plans really aren't that much cheaper than AT&T or Verizon. They're simply the cheapest out of the big three postpaid providers. For reference, T-Mobile's standard unlimited plan is $60 a month, whereas AT&T's is $65 and Verizon's is $70. Regardless, since they charge less, they're going to be faced with thinner margins than their competitors, which means in order to be successful, they need to reduce costs along the value chain. Since the cell phone service provider industry has high fixed costs due to the cost of using and maintaining a nationwide cell tower infrastructure, T-Mobile is likely to achieve this through economies of scale. This leads T-Mobile to their next industry problem. Customers are very hard to acquire due to the fact that almost everybody already has a cell phone service provider, and industry churn rates are around 1%. So since it's so hard to acquire customers organically, T-Mobile decided to get customers in a different way. And this is where the Sprint merger comes in. Through this merger, T-Mobile nearly doubles their customer base, as illustrated in the graphic on the right, where T-Mobile is green and Sprint is yellow. The customer base they adopt is very similar in that Sprint was also a lower cost option. So they're more likely to stick. They achieve heightened economies of scale due to this customer increase. And they also increase the value their service offers with a hugely expanded 5G infrastructure. So all in all, we think T-Mobile's merger with Sprint is a very strategic action that not only just increases their market share, but also accomplishes key strategic objectives and their big picture strategy.
Next, we're going to look at the challenges and recommendations for T-Mobile in this merger. The first challenge we analyzed was, now that they hold such a large market share, in theory, this allows T-Mobile to increase the prices and become almost a monopoly. So for this, we recommend continuing the price lock that they have in place right now. It's currently through 2023, and we recommend that they continue that on past that so they can lock in prices and keep customers. The second challenge we analyzed was competitors such as Verizon and AT&T are now going to try to offer more affordable plans for families in order to try to take some of the customers from this large T-Mobile company now. In order to combat that, we recommend T-Mobile increasing the T-Mobile Tuesday rewards and different other rewards like that they can offer to try and take the competitive advantage over AT&T and Verizon, as we feel this will make T-Mobile a more desirable wireless provider to have. And the last challenge we decided to analyze was the bad press with many analysts, as they feel that T-Mobile is now too powerful. And our recommendation for this was to increase the advertising of the continued price locks and the different rewards that they offer in an effort to show consumers that they are still an affordable priced wireless provider despite having such a large market share. And lastly, we looked at the stock price response to the merge. You can see in the middle of the graph there is where the merger actually officially took place. And you can see how the stock price has continued to rise since then. Although it did dip down there at the beginning of 2022, the price overall is up since the merger. So speaking from a financial standpoint, this was a very smart merge for T-Mobile to do. And now we're open for questions.